Hi there, welcome to Recap City. Today, I am going to share a 2012 science fiction horror movie titled Prometheus. Warning, spoilers ahead. Enjoy watching. An advanced humanoid alien spacecraft lands on a primitive planet millions of years ago. One of the aliens ingests a mysterious liquid, which causes its body to deteriorate and fall into a nearby waterfall. We watch how its DNA disintegrates and recombines, dispersing the elements necessary for life on Earth. A star map is discovered in a cave by an archaeologist couple Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway in the year 2089 on the Isle of Skye off the coast of Scotland. They document it among the remains of a number of otherwise unrelated ancient societies. They see this as an invitation from the ancestors of humanity. The USS Prometheus, a scientific deep space research vessel, was built with funding provided by Peter Weyland, the ailing founder and CEO of the Weyland firm. It will use the map to go to the far-off moon of LV-223, located several light-years from Earth. While the crew of the spacecraft travels in cryogenic stasis at light speed, David the android watch over their whole journey from the pilot's control. The spacecraft enters orbit around LV-223 in 2093. After being awakened from hibernation, the team is briefed on their objective to locate the ancient aliens known as engineers who may have created the human species. They also see a holographic message from Weyland, who informs them that he funded the project but has since passed away. Weyland also lets everyone know that the mission will be led by Charlie and Elizabeth. When the Prometheus enters the planet's atmosphere, it encounters turbulence, which passes once they can see the surface through the cloud cover. Shaw, Holloway and David formed a team that will investigate the extraterrestrial construction that resembles a gigantic temple pyramid after the Prometheus landed nearby. Vickers and Captain Yannick follow their progress from inside the ship. Mission Director Meredith Vickers instructed them to avoid any direct contact and to return if the aliens are found. Once they're inside the structure, they discover that the air is cleaner than Earth's, so they remove their helmets. David unlocks a dark room where they discover a large number of cylinder-like artifacts. They also found a massive sculpture featuring a human head and the severed head of a huge extraterrestrial who was presumably one of the engineers. While David secretly takes a cylinder, they decided to take the alien head and examine it on their ship. When the compartment was opened, the remaining cylinders started to leak a black fluid that was triggered by the altered temperature or environment. The crew is forced to return to Prometheus due to an impending storm, leaving Milburn and Fifield trapped inside the pyramid structure, because they are lost and could not find their way out. Elizabeth drops the alien head on her way back to the ship, so she rushes back to attempt to retrieve it. She is caught in the storm and is swept away, but the crew manages to save her, and they make it back safely. With David's assistance, Shaw and the medic Ford examined the engineer's head inside the ship after removing a massive helmet. Its DNA is found to be the same as that of the human race. They momentarily revive the skull by using an electric needle. However, the severed engineer's head quickly decomposes and disintegrates when it is exposed to the breathing environment and eventually explodes. David later opens the cylinder to look inside and finds many ampoules filled with a thick black substance. After that, David then meets with Holloway. David intentionally infects Holloway with a substance he found within the ampoule, hiding it in a drop of liquid on his finger and briefly dipping it into a glass of champagne Holloway drinks to celebrate their discovery. Later, Shaw and Holloway make out in their room. Holloway wakes up later and looks in a mirror and sees his eyes are changing. They are red and he sees a small silver worm-like organism emerge from one of his corneas. Back inside the structure, Fifield and Milburn see a strange snake-like creature emerge from a pool of the black fluid that has leaked from the cylinders. When Milburn tries to examine the creature, it quickly grabs his hand and wraps itself around his arm, breaking it in a matter of seconds. When Fifield tries to cut it off, a corrosive fluid from the creature melts Fifield's helmet, exposing him to the dark liquid leaking from the cylinders. The creature then works its way into his suit and forces itself down his throat. The next morning after the storm subsides, the Prometheus crew returns to the structure and finds Melbourne's corpse. David discovers a room containing a living engineer in stasis and a holographic star map highlighting several distant planetary systems. He watches as holograms of the engineers activate a navigational system. One of the planets that eventually appears is Earth. Suddenly the system shuts down, leaving the hologram of Earth behind. David finds a single engineer in a nearby stasis pod and can hear its heart beating. Holloway's infection rapidly ravages his body and he is rushed back to the ship. As he visibly deteriorates, Vickers refuses to let him aboard the ship, citing quarantine protocols. When he approaches Vickers begging her to kill him, she burns him to death with a flamethrower. Shaw is devastated. A medical scan reveals that Shaw, despite being sterile, is pregnant. David subdues her in order to return her to Earth in stasis. He takes the cross her father gave her, saying that it could be contaminated. She escapes and uses an automated medical surgery pod in Vickers' quarters to extract a horrific cephalopod-like creature from her abdomen while she is still conscious. Wayland is found to have been in stasis aboard the ship, and it's revealed that Vickers is his daughter. Wayland explains to Shaw that he intends to ask the engineers to help him avoid his impending death. A mutated Fifield is discovered just outside the hangar bay. He attacks and kills several crew members before being killed himself. Yennek theorizes that the moon they are on was used by the engineers as a military base until they lost control of their biological weapons, namely the cylinders and the black fluid they contain. The remaining crew return to the structure and awaken the engineer, who is occupying what is discovered to be a spaceship. David speaks an alien language to the engineer, asking him why they made mankind and asking him to extend the life of his own creator, Mr. Wayland. The engineer responds by ripping his head out and killing Wayland and Fort. Shaw escapes from the alien ship as it is activated by the engineer. The still active David informs them that the engineer is going to release the black fluid on Earth, thus killing every living creature on the planet. Shaw persuades Yennek to stop the engineer's ship despite Vickers' instructions for Yennek to return to Earth. Vickers escapes in an escape pod as Yennek and his two remaining crewmen launch the Prometheus and collide with the engineer spacecraft. Vickers is crushed when the crippled engineer spacecraft falls onto the planet and lands on her. Shaw barely escapes being crushed herself. Shaw discovers that her aborted but still living alien baby has grown to an enormous size when she goes to the escape pod to get supplies. After surviving the collision, the engineer enters the escape pod and fights Shaw, who then lets the tentacled thing out. It subdues the engineer by forcing an ovipositor down the engineer's throat. Meanwhile, Shaw feels hopeless and thinks she is stuck on the planet, but David reaches her and informs her that there are more engineered spacecraft on the planet. She retrieves David's remains from the spacecraft and takes back the cross that David had taken from her. They journey together onto the engineer's planet in an effort to learn the reasons for the creation of mankind and the subsequent attempt to exterminate it. Help us grow this channel. Subscribe for more videos every day, turn on notifications and leave a like and a comment. Thank you for watching. See you at the next one.